Welcome to Seed Starting 101. Today we are going to be going over some of the basics for growing plants from seeds in your home. The first and most important step is to read the packet. There's a lot of important information on there, like when to plant your plant, how far to space it from other seeds, how deep you should plant it, how much sun it needs, and also whether or not you should be soaking your seeds before planting them. Whether or not you soak your seeds before planting depends on what type of seeds you're planting. Generally, larger seeds benefit from soaking overnight, so that the seed is really activated and ready for planting, while smaller seeds, because they're so small, generally don't need to be soaked in water before planting. Be sure and read your seed packet, as it will often say whether or not to soak your seeds, but also check out tips online for whatever plant you're trying to grow. Let's take a close-up look at 3 different seeds. Here I have a green bean seed. As you can see, it looks like a bean. It's got a hard outer shell, it's oval and rounded, and generally with planting beans, you do soak them overnight. Our next seed is a loofah seed, which are similar to squash or pumpkin seeds. My loofah packet did not recommend soaking the seeds overnight, but all the tips I saw online did. And I've had a very good germination rate soaking these seeds. Our last seed is a tiny little lettuce seed. I'm going to add some more so we can really see them. This is a salad mix that I bought to sprout microgreens with. And as you can see, they're very small, very tiny, and won't benefit from soaking before planting. It may even harm the seeds. So how much of a difference does soaking your seeds really make? I decided to do an experiment with the green beans that I'm growing. I planted one row with soaked seeds, and the other row I planted just with dry seeds. The results were that all 8 of my soaked seeds sprouted, and 7 out of 8 of the dry seeds sprouted, but they sprouted later. The dry planted seeds sprouted 3 days to 2 weeks after the soaked seeds sprouted. So it appears that it does help get the growing process going when it's appropriate to the type of seed that you're planting. Again, not all seeds should be soaked. The next thing that we'll look at is the spacing of your seeds. Generally, smaller plants and seeds can be planted closer together. Think about the size of your plant when it's fully grown and space your seeds accordingly. Sometimes with larger seeds or plants, they need to be planted at a lower depth. Generally, 2 to 3 times the diameter of your seed is a good depth for planting. Again, always read your seed packet. If you overseed, there'll be no room for your seeds to grow, and your plants could be fighting with each other for resources. Here I'm planting a mixed lettuce seed. Now this I'm growing to use just as microgreens, so I'm not worried about overcrowding because I'm going to harvest these seeds when they're very small. Because they're so small, I'm also just going to do a small thin layer of soil on the top. They don't need to be planted very low down. In fact, if they're planted too low, the sunlight and the warmth won't be able to reach them, and the seeds will not germinate. Now, because these seeds are so small and so delicate and there's just a thin layer of topsoil, I'm choosing to mist them rather than water them with a watering can or a hose. If you water your seeds with too high of pressure, it could disrupt the soil, disrupt the seed, and cause issues with the germination of your seeds. The first leaves of your plant are often not true leaves, and they may look different from the plant's regular leaves. They may resemble the seed shape more and may last only a few days or a few months. If you're transplanting, wait for a few of your true leaves to sprout before transplanting. The first leaves on many plants are called the Cotyledon. Let's look back at the loofah seeds I'm sprouting. Here we can see the Cotyledon leaves sprouting, and as we watch the plant develop, we can see the first true leaves sprouting. As you can see, they're a totally different shape, a different texture, and the Cotyledon leaves actually hung on for several weeks before they eventually started drying up off of the loofah plant. These I do plan to transplant, which is why I'm starting them off in this small pot. If you direct sow your plants, you may need to go in after they sprout and do some thinning. Some seeds recommend planting 2 to 3 plants in one group to increase your germination rate. Not every seed sprouts, which is why they recommend planting in groups. If both of your seeds sprout in one planting, cut off the weaker, smaller plant near the soil line once growth is established. This way your plants aren't competing for resources. It's much better to have one well-established plant that has plenty of room to grow than to have two smaller, weaker plants competing for sunlight and for soil. I'll admit, sometimes it's hard to go in and snip off a plant that you just sprouted from seed, but it'll make your garden stronger. Let's take a quick step back and talk about watering again. Whenever possible, it's great if you can water from underneath. If you have your seeds starting in a small plastic pot, you can put them in a larger pot full of water and just let the water soak in and then remove it once the soil's fully hydrated. Or just water gently from above so you don't disrupt the soil or damage the sprouts from a heavy downpour. If you disrupt the soil, the seeds could become exposed to the sun and they could get damaged and dry out. If you aren't directly sowing your seeds where you want them growing, there are several simple DIY seed pots that you can make from home. You can reuse old food containers with drainage holes added, such as yogurt or other plastic containers. You can fold up newspaper or use old toilet paper rolls, and these will decompose when you plant them into your garden. Here I have a toilet paper roll that I've just cut into 4 even spaces along the bottom, and I've folded it up like you would fold up a cardboard box. So the soil can go in the top and so can the seed, and you can transplant the entire container when it's ready to be transplanted. Just make sure you open up the bottom. Because the cardboard won't decompose that quickly, you want to open up space that the roots can grow down into the rest of the soil. The last thing to really consider is the lighting needs of your seeds. If your seeds aren't getting enough light, they may become leggy or stretched, reaching for more light. The plant may also have delayed growth and not be as strong. Full sun generally means 6 or more hours a day, partial shade, at least 3 hours of sun up to 6 hours of sun a day. Here's an example of a leggy plant. I am attempting to grow some bush beans on a north-facing balcony that only gets about 2 hours of sunlight a day. So as you can see, they are reaching for sun. There's almost 12 full inches on the stem before a leaf appears. I'm sticking with these because despite that, I'm still getting some beautiful flowers and I'm hoping to get at least a few beans, but because they're not getting enough sun, I know I won't get a very big harvest from these plants. But it's still fun to try and grow something new. We hope you found the short introduction helpful and that it inspires you to get out there and do some planting of your own. Thanks for watching.